That's fine. That's fine. Rob, did you hear? I was going to send you an article that Pierce Brosnan auditioned for Batman.
Yeah.
Tim Burton, and he did not do very well. To this day, he was like, "Woof, this was not a good situation."
Yeah, no, I think he had retold this story on a Reddit AMA a couple years ago, but then I guess he was discussing in promotion for Black Adam. I guess he was on Fallon.
Yeah,
and he said, he's like, I had I auditioned for it. I said to Burton, like, what type of a fool wears his like underwear? Well, whatever the British slang for his underwear, what trousers on the outside of his pants,
underoos.
And Burton was like, thanks very much, bro, like that. So, could you imagine though if Pierce Brosnan? And it was so funny because Fallon was like, "Oh yeah, too bad for you. You only happen to be Bond afterwards." And he's like, "Yeah, I know." But could you imagine if we had a Pierce Brosnan?
He probably wouldn't have been Bond. So to be fair, he probably would not have been James Bond. So it worked out in a favor.
Yeah, well, that was 89, 92, and then GoldenEye is 95.
Are you throwing Pierce Brosnan slander? Are you saying he's not a good James Bond?
Hey, whenever I say, "Hey, let's watch GoldenEye," Rob rolls his eyes. So that makes me think that maybe people did not accept Brosnan.
Okay. We're gonna hang on.
Bond.
We need to get into this one day, but I will say this: I don't know why. So listen, guys. Last week, 60th anniversary of Bond. I watched Dr. No. I just finished From Russia with Love, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll throw Goldfinger on. Okay, so Dr. No comes out in 1962, and I was like, I wonder how old Connery was, right? Because I didn't realize. So he was 32. Dr. No comes out. He does 32, he's 33, and 34 for those first three movies. And then You Only Live... Oh, Diamonds Are Forever, right? He leaves, he comes back, does Diamonds Are Forever, and he's 41, okay? I would ask you to, or anybody who's watching this or listening after, to Google Diamonds Are Forever images. And you tell me, does that not look like the oldest 41-year-old you've ever seen in your life? Like,
it was a different time. It was a different time where there's cigarette smoke everywhere. It's kind of like the episode of Seinfeld. Kramer was in a room with smoking and it aged him too much. Like, it's a different time.
Yeah, he looked like a leather catcher's mitt or something.
Was the comparison. It's a different time.
I was shocked to shit because I've always thought, Connery was long in the tooth and Diamonds Are Forever. He was only 41 or 42. And yet he looks like he's pushing 58.
Hey man, there was no thing as it was a recreational salad back then. It wasn't like you did it for cholesterol purposes. So it's a different time, different place.
But getting back to your original query about whether or not I think Pierce Brosnan is a good Bond.
That was a big tangent, Rob. I don't know where this is going. I don't know how you're circling this back.
Are you saying he's not or he is? He's okay.
No slander. No Pierce Brosnan slander. We're going. Jeez. Okay, I'm gonna go about this. I received a note on my door. Speaking of slander, from a culprit with a giant V on my door. The note read the following, Rob. Hopefully you can help me succinct what this means.
I'll do my best.
Do the Diddy if you want to, because then I can see if you want to. Just do the Diddy if you want to, because then I can see you if I want to.
So first of all, it's a pervert because like they want to watch you doing ditties. Like what. And second of all, is that like a ditty as in a dance, or does he want you like with like doing like what is that? What's going on?
I don't know. Vanis is always enigma wrapped in a question. So I don't know. A riddle wrapped in a question. So this is what it is. Well, anyways, welcome for this random tangent we've been through. We spent 4 minutes of your time talking about nonsense. Thank you for joining us in the Heroes World podcast. I am one of your hosts. Is one of the owners and proprietors of Heroes World, that be Mr. John Ho. Please say hello to the people at home.
Hi, people at home.
And finally, our resident Prince of Mischief, apparently not a fan of Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan hater.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm not saying I'm not. I think he got shortchanged on some of those movies.
I disagree. They were all great. They're all fantastic.
Die Another Day is not a great movie. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, we'll go back to that talk a little bit later. I think to this
the
day
argument
now
is they're
that,
not. None of them are
we
good
look.
movies. So
To be fair, one of those villains was like an Elon Musk character, and now Elon Musk is truly a supervillain.
Right.
With the power of the internet typing on the side of his thing.
In all fairness, most of those Bond villains in the 70s, 80s, and 90s are Elon Musk prototypes.
Yeah.
Like, let's not forget, View to a Kill, it was all about trying to steal all of the microchips at Silicon Valley, right?
This is what's about tech fiasco. So welcome everyone. We talked about this before. To do a recap at the end of the She-Hulk series. We did our initial thoughts after episode 1. So here we are. The episode dropped today. The last of the She-Hulk episodes. That would be episode 9. Whose show is this? So we're going to talk about all the shows out and here and there. But let's get to you, John. The episode 1 came out. You were a fan. As the show has kind of changed and moved along, where are you at now after completing probably the most Rick and Morty episode I've seen of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, episode 9? Where are we right now?
Yeah. So I assume we're not going to get into spoilers just yet.
No.
We're just kind of do like a full season overview. After episode 9, I'm pretty happy. I do wish there was more. It feels kind of short if they were going for this sitcom flavor, like what sitcom like Friends, like, or whatever show that only goes for less than 10 episodes. So it does kind of make me wonder why they don't have more of these in the hopper or whatever. But overall, pretty happy with it. It fit exactly what I wanted.
I see what you did there, John. Hopper.
Yeah. So it fit exactly what I wanted. A nice, fun show. I turn it on. I don't have to think. I don't have to go searching for Easter eggs. I just enjoy it. There are Easter eggs if you want to get into them. And I feel like this character, despite what some people say online, was very true to her comic book counterpart. So if you not read any She-Hulk comics, this is kind of what she does. She breaks the wall, she has fun, and all these kind of characters come in and help her out. So overall, really happy with this.
Rob, your general thoughts
on the series as a whole? Yeah. I liked it more than I thought I was going to. I found myself once I accepted the fact that it was a comedy, like really like playing for the, swinging for the fences kind of comedy, breaking that fourth wall. I thought it was hilarious. All but one episode, I laughed numerous times throughout each episode. So I was very satisfied with it. It was a very different direction. I think in the first episode that we recorded, I was like, man, I wanted it to be more like the original, 1978 TV series, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But I'm okay with what we got. I thought it was hilarious. And I think there's a lot. I feel like there's not a lot of credit being given to Tatiana Maslany on her portrayal as Jen She-Hulk. I don't know why there's not a lot of attention on that, but I think she did a fantastic job and is really, really funny. So overall, I'm very happy with this season, Stu. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think we all had a little bit of trepidation in the beginning of the series, and I think this show knew it was coming because without watching the show, it really kind of got the internet, knew the zeitgeist and figured what the biggest complaints were going to be. So it was kind of like, I felt like a very South Parkian, where the show seemed very on the tone of what a lot of people on the internet were already saying before the show had even aired.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, wow, I don't know whether they will to really pivot this quickly, because no way they're like South Park. They can turn an episode around in a week's time.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to see that. And John, to your point, you haven't watched enough of UK television shows to know that anywhere between a series order could be 3 episodes or 12.
Yeah, so I feel like 2 episodes ago they should have announced that this is being picked up and we get another 12 episodes.
I think in the show she already said season 2. I think they've already, without spoiling, a little bit of a spoiler, but they already did a whole thing where they were talking about season 2 all over the internet. So I can imagine that, it's coming. But John, what is your overall rating of this show out of 10?
So it's not going to be as quite up there. I think I'm still going to put Hawkeye at the top of my list for the Marvel properties, but I think
the math is all over the place, John.
The math does not add up, folks. Don't worry about the math. I'm going to be selling a special calculator. It's going to be branded as the Heroes World Podcast calculator, and you'll be able to order that, and things will add up.
It'll just be 10s.
But until then, every button is a 10, and you're like,
And then it randomly removes numbers. It's like, and finally the rating of the show is an 8.5. It's like, how is that possible?
I'd be like, what's that Price is Right thing where it just spins the dial, and then here's your number. But yeah, I'm gonna give this. I really do like Rob said, Tatiana Mosley. Like, she is really, really charming in the show. I love watching her. I wish she had more shows out there that you can watch, but Orphan Black, I'm told, is fantastic. So I feel like I have to give this a 9. I think I have to give it a 9. Yeah.
Rob?
Listen, mark your calendars down because I am in complete agreement with Bobo here.
I prefer Bozo. Hello, not Bobo. Bozo the clown. Come on.
I'm also going to give it a 9.
Oh, snap. Is this going to be a triple? Is this
No, it's not going to be triple 9. I know. Stu's going to go 8.5.
Triple 9. Triple 9. There was a movie named after.
John, like a Vegas slot machine, just when you're hoping for a 9, it is. It's a 9.
Oh, triple 9.
Yahtzee.
Wow, first time.
Yeah. I think the last episode 8 and 9 did so much for me that it kind of things were stagnant, and then it just kind of went back up. I think watching the show, it gets to the point where I guess the not to ruin, you've seen in trailers that when she goes to a wedding, it kind of really dips downward for a bit to kind of get its footing, and then it just picks back up again quickly and gains steam. There is that
one of my favorite episodes, though, Stu. I don't know.
It's a fine episode. It's a ball episode, but
I
think in terms of I think the other shows before, I docked points to Ms. Marvel about who's the villain, who's the bad guy in the show. At least in this show, they're like, by the end, they're like, well, this is the villain, and they explained it. And there was multiple villains, and there was a lot of things that happened where they addressed it. So I can't be as negative to my initial thoughts. It has its ebb and flow. I think there's an article today talking about how all the folks who've written on Rick and Morty have the street cred where they can all get TV shows and things done because she wrote Pickle Rick. One of the other writers from Rick and Morty is now writing Secret Wars and wrote Multiverse of Madness. All of them kind of have this kind of small group that's formed out and now is kind of taking over the dork universe. So it's interesting. I liked a lot, but I think, like I said before, episode 8 and 9 did so much where I could watch those 2 episodes over and over just to kind of figure out what's going on. So yeah, I'll go back to John. I would totally recommend you watching this show. I think it is so different than any of the Marvel shows, and you just have to go into it knowing that it's completely different. And Jennifer Walters does say, this is a legal comedy several times, and she's very upfront, this is the type of show. So
one episode and you kind of know what it is, so you don't have to watch 5 and go, I don't know if I like this. You watch 1 and you're like, okay.
Yeah, you're in or out. John, what do you recommend people, especially those with no MCU knowledge, do you recommend people watch this show?
Yeah, I think this is more appealing to the casual audience. Like I said, I have it on in the background. My wife doesn't normally watch any of this Marvel stuff. She would kind of go, oh, what's going on with this? So I think this one works better for a broader audience, that the hardcore guys are the ones that probably might have a problem with it. So,
Rob, yourself?
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, John's right. It's a casual viewer. Maybe, your significant others out there who are not into these properties would find something enjoyable. I just think we should also acknowledge the fact that we've had back-to-back Marvel shows with 2 very strong, prominent female characters. And I think that that's really awesome, right? I think it's really cool. And they both have different tones and did different things with their respective shows. But my hope is that it allows more younger females, or even the moms out there, not like our moms, but our wives who aren't into this to be able to want to come and check this stuff out. Right. So yeah, I would really recommend it. And So I think it's really fun.
All right. Well, we're gonna go into spoilers at this standpoint. We're talking about lots of the weird cameos and all the things that happen. So if you haven't watched it, please pause the show and come back. For the audio listeners at home, you've been warned. So, John, spoilers. Give us your overall list of things, your gimmick of gimmicks.
Yeah. So before I dive into that, I just want to tell you guys a quick story that I have a copy of the She-Hulk omnibus on my shelf at the store. And this mom and her son came in, and the kid picks up the book and goes, "Hey, Mom, it's you." And then the mom just kind of brushes it off. And I was like, I wonder if this mom thinks that, oh, my kid thinks I'm a mean green thing, or maybe he actually knows the She-Hulk character and it's like his mom is a powerful kind of character, like a powerful
or just
kick-ass. It's the classic cover. She's wearing the white dress and she's like standing on top of a bad guy and stuff, and she's basically just owning the entire presence of that cover of that omnibus. And I actually kind of was like, oh man, I wanted to kind of tell her, like, he's saying you're a powerful female role model or influence. So I hope that's what he was thinking. Anyways,
instead you're like, your son says you're hot.
Yeah. Your son says you're green. You're green and you wear torn dresses. I don't know. I think he was saying that she is a powerful badass. But anyways, gimmick for today is indications why this show I think was made for me. So number 3, they fit in a Mariah Carey track. It's a remix. So otherwise, if it was an original track of hers, it would have been pushed to the top. But they fit in the big energy song. It was only there for a little bit, but it fit the scene. I would have preferred some of her older tracks, but shout out to Mariah Carey. Maybe she'll make a cameo in future seasons. Number 2 is, I'm sure Rob's going to talk about it, but the throwback intro during this finale episode, which is shot. I don't know if it's shot for shot, Rob. You can clarify later on. But the original Lou Ferrigno Hulk, and you actually get to see. I forgot what her name is, but there's a really tall stand-in girl that paints herself green for them to do the scenes and stuff like that. You'll find her on Instagram. Maybe I'll try and link her in the bottom. But she actually got to play the Hulk during this trailer, so people actually got to see her in that role. So I think that was really cool of them to include that, and it just gave me that old school feel. So maybe in a bizarre world, we could have got the version of the show that Rob originally thought would have been conceived, and it actually looked like it would have been a lot of fun. So I don't know if they're going to fill in an episode somewhere on a what if show or something like that. Would be great. So shout outs to that. I actually do want to go and watch an old episode of that. And then number 1 is the whole hitting the menu button on the Netflix or the Disney Plus, where it pops out and you get to see the whole menu, and then she actually interacts with the menu. This third wall kind of meta thing, and she goes to the writing room. That whole stretch in the story, I wasn't sure if I was going to like, but they did a really good job with it. And you would have thought big action scene, like they were saying, they were basically calling themselves out on the formula they've made themselves so famous for. And then the shout outs to the KEVIN AI that was generating the ending or whatever. It was just a great way to wrap up this show and kind of show people what She-Hulk is about. So those are my 3 favorite things. And it was like this episode, I was really happy with this finale. So I can't say anything bad about it really, other than the only reason I knocked it a point and it didn't get a 10 was maybe the CGI kind of takes you out a little bit, some of the parts.
Yeah. All right. Well, Rob, give us your thoughts.
Are we just talking about the finale?
All of it.
Oh, all of it. Okay, because John. Okay.
Oh,
John just picked the ones he remembers. So
okay.
I thought we were doing this episode, but that's go ahead.
What part of the series overview are we talking about?
Yeah,
John?
I got really very confused. Okay, so listen. Everybody knows our thoughts on episode 1. Not a lot happens throughout the course of the other episodes, in the sense that you get Wong is in there. Like, we've talked about it off camera, the 3 of us. It was cool seeing Wong and Blonsky coming back, and then his wives, and then the retreat, the wedding that we mentioned earlier in this episode is hella funny. There's a lot of ebbs and flows on the show. Her potentially getting her super suit and talking with the designer, and when we got that tease, I think that was like episode 6 or 5, we got the tease of like the Daredevil helmet, and we were like, all right, Daredevil's coming up next, and we waited. Leapfrog was the villain last week, and then the week prior to that,
rip it.
Yeah, and then the week prior to that was like all those like the porcupine guy and everything else like that at in the healing circle, and he takes his costume off and he like. There are just so many funny moments, like the rewatchability.
Let's not forget the shape-shifting light elf, Runa.
Right. Yes. Yeah. The elf. Yeah. That kept the old elf lady who kept changing, shifting into other people and like taking over the judge's
Meg the Stallion.
Megan the Stallion.
Yes. Megan the Stallion with the twerking. Like this show really does. And I know we talk about like, oh, Hawkeye, you could rewatch it and that, but this show really does lend itself to wanting people, like you could totally rewatch, pick any episode because they are somewhat self-contained. There's an overflowing storyline throughout the course of the season, but they are self-contained enough that it makes you like you need a good laugh. You can put this stuff on. But like we have to obviously talk about, for me, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. So one, okay, so John's already mentioned the opening that takes the old school 78 Incredible Hulk opening and morphs it into this. And now it's not shot for shot, John, because there's a lot that wasn't put in there, but it was close up. It was enough. My mind was exploding with like a pure joy and orgasmic energy. And I was like, oh my God. I honestly, guys, I was waiting to like go back to Disney Plus menu to see that Universal released the Incredible Hulk.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
I was like, come on, please. I want to be able to get this. I mean, I thought it was super hilarious how they did it, what they did with that stand-in with painted all green and doing the Hulk stuff. I loved that approach. When it comes to the Daredevil episode, which is episode 8, so last week's episode, admittedly, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to go given the tone of the series from episodes 1 to 7. And I was like, is this going to be like, he's a series, like I'm thinking about how we've got Charlie Cox from the Netflix series. How is he going to come across in this show? And I was pleasantly surprised that like, he didn't come across as brooding, but he didn't come across as goofy. He just came across as just charming and chill, right? Like, and I was like, wow, such a good balance because, you know, maybe you like your brooding Daredevil, but guess what? You had Frank Miller write that. But then maybe you want a Daredevil who's a little bit more witty. You get your Kevin Smith Guardian Angel. Like, you know, these characters do go to different, series in the comics, and those writers write to with their flair.
Yeah, the Mark Waid run, I think, is like very light.
Yeah, so I really think that his inclusion in the episode, I didn't find it gimmicky. I found it to be pretty like natural, especially because he was a defense lawyer for the suit maker. I was I laughed at their chemistry together. Like their chemistry together was so amazing that when in the final episode, when Jen is talking about things that she goes, I smashed the fourth wall, I smashed that, and Daredevil on occasion. I was killing myself laughing. I was like, holy crap. Like, what world are we living in where we're having, first of all, we have a She-Hulk television series. Daredevil is cameoing in it. And she's talking about them like, knocking boots together. Like, I thought that the whole thing was just super hilarious and just a breath of fresh air from this genre, comic book movies and TV series that feels like it's getting a little bit long in the tooth at times. So I thought that the writing was fantastic. I thought everything they did was fantastic. And Stu, you mentioned earlier that they were so on the nose talking about the things. Like, how did they know there's going to be an uproar on the internet of people saying, the CGI and this and that? Like, they referenced that in this episode, in the finale episode. Like, they're like, hey, can you change, go back to Jen, but we're going to do it off camera. So
now, do it now.
Our CGI guys are already working on something else. Sorry, like that. Like, it was just so freaking hilarious, like how they did it. And the breaking of the fourth wall is a really tough thing to do. People think it's super easy. Oh, Ferris Bueller did it. Okay. Deadpool does it. Okay, great. But there's lots of people who do it and it doesn't come across well. In this episode, it really came across well. And John's right. When it froze and went to the Disney Plus screen, for a brief second, I was like, what?
You're like, did I press it?
Right. And I was like, I want to know how many people were like, what the hell? And grabbed the remote control like this to see, right? Because I thought that was brilliant. I loved it. Honestly, you know, there's a lot about this show that I really enjoyed, and I can't wait to go back and watch it again. But I'm looking forward to hearing what Stu has to say. But yeah, overall, I loved it.
Yeah, I think, Rob, you hit a lot of it. The fact that there's even more weird cameos that we didn't even talk about. Let's talk about our favorite mock Major Domo from Book of Boba Fett, David Pasquale playing Mr. Immortal. Just like a random, like a whole court case where you're like, he's on dying. He's like, I don't want to pay for these bills, and he just jumps.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't want to pay for the alimony.
He jumps out the window.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's fun. And then to your point, Rob, it really, the little things that this show did, where it's like, oh, the full wrecking crew show up, and you're like, oh, the wrecking crew shows up. That's like a throwaway to the show. And then the other throwaway is that in that group of Man Bull and like a swashbuckler, there's a vampire. It's like like, oh, the vampire, don't worry about it. And you're like seeding the way for a lot of other characters in the MCU. And with Daredevil jumping in, just lightly saying, oh yeah, the Sokovian Accords, they don't exist anymore. I was like, what? It's like, oh yeah, they've been overruled. I was like, what did you just? I had to rewind it. I stopped. I'm like, wait, so the Sokovia Accords are no longer there anymore? It's like, okay, well, I guess that's it.
I had the subtitles on, so I knew exactly what he said. I was like, oh, nice, well done. Clean that up.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, just a small thing about that. It's like a nice way as a lawyer to throw it in. And then Sakaar showing up is like, yeah, here's my son. I was like, what? It was like,
but they laid the groundwork because they had that ship show up earlier, right?
On top of that, Kevin, the AI robot, the Marvels, like that is also another meta. Like they were in like the like writer's room, and they're like, yeah, we're talking about season 2, and then that is probably the actual Marvel, like, because we've seen pictures of people taking pictures of the hallway in the office. That has to be the actual office that they're in. They just took pictures and just like recorded outside of the AI robot named Kevin.
With the hat. Did you guys notice the hat? He had the brim,
hat too.
Black brim hat. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, and the whole thing about like, oh, it's like, oh, it needs this fight and blah blah at the end, because at that point in the scene where it's like, I'm also a Hulk. I'm like, and then the Hulk, and then Bruce Banner shows up, and Titania shows up. I'm like, this is a mess. What is happening?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh my god, I feel like somebody just puked like the finale all over the screen. There's too much happening here.
Yeah, right? You're like, they jumped the shark.
The fact that Jen notices and she's like talking to us, like, wait, what is happening? Like, are you? Yeah. Is this
so she stops the Disney Plus thing, knocks out the thing. I'm like, whoa, this is really deep. And walking through the Disney lot, I was like, okay, cool. So, and even little thing, it's
Did
like,
you see it coming, Stu? Like, was there a point, like a character dropping in? I didn't really catch on until the Hulk maybe dropped in, and I was like, okay, this is a little crazy. I don't know if you guys maybe picked it up earlier. That this
it was something where I'm like, oh, something's gonna happen here. It was weird, and then when she's like, guys, this is too much. Like, we gotta figure this out. So I was like, oh, this is fun. This was a nice.
I found like she was breaking that fourth wall a lot in this episode, like leading up to that whole moment we're talking about. Because like the voiceover guy for the Incredible Hulk thing, she goes, all right, voiceover guy, we're not doing this again. Yeah. Like, and there was a lot of like moments where she's lying in bed looking at the camera saying, it seems really like, this doesn't seem like a good finale episode. Like, so you could tell like this one just felt different than all the others, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it felt really interesting because even at the end when Blonsky came in, I was like, they're trying to misdirect. He's not the bad guy. Like, I can't, this is not the situation I think they're setting up, because even at the end, a lot of us who had watched all the Disney like stuff were like, oh, he's part of the Thunderbolts. And this was, no, he's in jail. And oh no, Wong sprung him out. Like, if you watch the after credits, because watching the after credits, like Benedict Wong, I'm like, wait a second, he wasn't in this episode. And then he shows up at the end. I was like, all right, they knock him out of prison again, and he's gonna do some whatever thing, commentage and Wi-Fi. As we know the password to the Wi-Fi network. So this is
we're not savages.
Yeah, we're not savages. So like, again, I thought that it was really well done. I thought when she's like, oh yeah, Daredevil, it's like he could show up again because just her comments. I think we talked before being sex positive. She's like, yeah, we can smash again. I was like, whoa, this is really, they're going for it.
Yeah, when you see Daredevil walking, like he's walking on episode 8 after he spends the night.
Yeah.
It's morning time and he's got the full costume on, but he's holding his boots behind him. And he's walking kind of like great. Almost like whistling.
Yeah.
And people are like looking at this guy, and it's like, that's not where you ever expect to see Daredevil walking along the grassy lawns.
Yeah. And at the end,
I like when he showed up and he was like, I'm here. And he's like, it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was also the fact that at the end where they're sitting there actually at the barbecue, and it's like, oh, still here, and he's like in the costume, and then all of a sudden Bruce shows like, oh, that's my cousin, and you could see even he's like, what is happening here? It's like
Daredevil was like sitting at the table like a Matthew McConaughey character in a rom-com talking to the family.
Yeah, this is everything. He's like, only here for a week. He's like, yes, I'm only here for. I'm like, well, this is great. Like, this is everything you kind of a nice. This is the familia, like they're drinking, knocking back some Coronas, drinking there in the backyard, and then Bruce brings his baby boy Sakaar, and then all of a sudden this is the thing,
which is like such a weird thing to just like, oh, by the way, this is my kid Sakaar. You're like, and then it goes like that, and then it ends scene, like it goes to a different. You're like, wait, what?
Well, was he completely CG? Could you guys tell? It looked like he was.
Yeah, it's the same thing. But that's I think they spent a little time. It was kind of what Kevin said. It's like, we'll explain it. It's like, no, we don't care about that. We'll explain it in the movie. And it was like,
she's like, movie, and he goes, yeah, you know too much. Yeah.
Oh, he's like, no, not you, or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I think it was more like, I'm gonna be in a movie, and he's like, I don't know about that one. Maybe we'll see. Like. So I thought, it was fun. It has some nice pops to it. Joe, what are the thoughts that you had, and because again, of the show that you want to drop in terms of, I know you love Ribbit and Rip It, but talk to about. Would you be a tadpole, John? I feel like you'd be a tadpole.
It was so that guy was a disaster. He's like driving around in the car and stuff like that. But yeah, I was gonna ask you guys maybe what your favorite cameo or something was, but I do want to shout out Madison with the 2 eyes and a Y or whatever the hell her name was.
Yeah, man.
If she appeared in the after credits along with Wong, I would have been really happy. But I do want to shout out the character. I don't remember what her name is that plays Jen's secretary that she brings along with her. I think she, especially towards the last couple episodes, she really became a key character in kind of Jen's story. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say other than it was really fun. All the cameos you guys were talking about, we had a lot, so much so that I actually kind of forgot about a lot of those earlier ones. Nikki, yeah. And then if I had to pick a favorite episode, I would say I don't want to be like just pick the Daredevil episode, but that Daredevil episode was so good that I feel like I have to pick it, right? So it's like it was just really well done, and the fact that the finale, like when she was like, "Oh, let's put it in daytime," I thought that was a really nice a flip instead of them standing around a dark parking lot. Like Daredevil was in broad daylight when he shows up, full Daredevil outfit on the grass, and he's like, "Yo, I'm here," and you're just like, "Hey, I can see the costume." Fully detailed. You don't normally do that. So
it's a good point, John. I think that Daredevil episode went by so quick.
Yeah,
it was like Daredevil was in and out in like 21 minutes. It was like, oh, that part's episode's done now, and then all of a sudden it's like 8 more minutes of like something else happens in the episode. Like, whoa, this is like so much, so like in such a small amount of time. I was really surprised because I thought Daredevil would be around for a little longer, but I did like. And John, you're right, because episode 8 they did Daredevil's hallway thing too, where they're like, oh, he's in the hallway fighting these guys, and Hulk just comes through and beats up the 5 guys. And
I forgot what she says when she drops down. She like Hulk did or something like that.
She-Hulk smash, but like
She-Hulk smash. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, but even that thing up to the funny thing too. It's like, I'm gonna go around taking people out. She's like, for 30 seconds, he's like, so it's going to take you an hour? She's like, that's not how math works. Like, I'm going to go around stealthily taking them out. She's like, it's like, how many times have you done this? She's like, 0. But I can just go. It's like the dialogue already between the fighting styles is pretty much every D&D character between a barbarian and a thief. It's like, okay, I can a rogue. I can do stealth. I'll run around and beat people up. And the barbarian is like, I'll just knock down the door and punch everyone in the face. So I just liked the small nuances, and even little thing too, where the lily pad, the lights were red up top. So when he was there, it's completely like Daredevil red the entire. So it's just like hats off to the design team and all the things that people. I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw the yellow, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. But actually seeing that full costume yellow and red, I was like, man, this. I hope they keep this in the new Daredevil show.
It looked good because we saw that leaked picture, whatever they released earlier, and you're kind of like, I don't know about this, but the leaked picture, I don't know if you got input from your brother who was a big fan, right? I don't know.
But I think we got a better sense of it, as John said, in the daylight. Like in episode 8, you're looking at it like, okay, and then you see a little bit in light, but then when he's walking in the morning, but specifically in today's episode, the finale, and you really get to see the vibrancy pop, you're like, yeah, I'm down with that outfit, right?
Yeah, and it is also a thing where his tailor probably is in jail right now, so he needs another person that can make his super suits. So
he got they dropped the case, right?
No, but his original.
Oh, his original.
Yeah, his original.
Who is he? The gladiator or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think he's like, top or gladiators. Oh gosh.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, gladiator. Yeah.
Yeah, where he's like, I had to protect
something, right?
Yeah, Milton. I have to protect Betsy, and he's like, this is the armor I'm making. It's like he makes all the clothing for the Kingpin and all the other stuff too. So it was nice that they kind of bad for Melvin. But good for the new
She-Hulk will get him out.
Yeah, let's quickly just talk about Abomination. Are you happy with the direction they're going in, John? Because he's a very different Abomination than what we remembered from the movie.
Yeah. I have no attachment to the character. This is one of the inconsistencies that is in the show, that this character was completely not that in the Hulk movie. But I think generally people don't consider that Hulk movie as part of the current MCU.
We do, because
tonality, I feel like people have kind of like distanced themselves from the Ed Norton portrayal.
Perfect movie. Continue. No,
I like it. I like the movie, but I feel like tone wise, it doesn't fit in with the rest of the MCU. Because I don't know if you could drop Ed Norton, like if what's his name was Mark Ruffalo wasn't available for this. If they dropped Ed Norton in playing the same part, I don't think
he probably could.
I don't know if he would be able to do it.
Ed Norton's a fantastic actor. He can do it. Have you not?
Maybe, Italian job.
Playing a priest. Was it who's the other? Bringing the Faith? Is that's the comedy where he plays the priest? And
I don't know.
I think Ben Stiller's It's
it sounds great though. Ben Stiller and Norton.
I had to fact check that. But
I did find it weird when he was being the motivational speaker and the CG on him and stuff like that was a little bit much. But then they kind of exposed that as a ridiculous, over the top ending anyway. So and then he gets sprung at the end. I'm okay with it. It fits in with the current MCU. I feel.
I think keeping the faith. Is that the one I'm talking?
That sounds familiar.
Stiller, Ed Norton. Yes. Yes. Where somehow
random recommendation, folks.
Two friends, a priest and a rabbi, fall in love at the same moment as they knew in their youth, but both religious positions, and the men are both denying them romance. So Ben Stiller plays a rabbi, Ed Norton plays a priest, just both trying to woo Jenna Elfman. That's the movie.
Did they walk into a bar at the beginning?
That is quite a movie experience. All right, Rob, what are your thoughts on Emil Blonsky?
Well, listen, I think we've come across this in the past where you end up having, you see characters in previous or iterations of them, and then their tone, John says tonality is vastly different. And you're like, that's not the same. This is bullshit. And I've made those arguments in the past. I'm starting to come around to the fact that the Emil Blonsky that we've gotten in this episode, or in this series, will likely not be exactly the same that we get in his next appearance outside of She-Hulk season 2. If it's the Thunderbolts, he might be a little bit there might be a little bit of that still, transferred over, but it'll be a bit different because that director and those writers will give specific instructions on how they want that to kind of go. So, you know what? It is what it is. Yeah, John's right. I mean, first of all, I never bought him as this super soldier guy out of England. Like it just I loved Tim Roth, one of my favorite actors from the 90s, Tarantino's favorite, but he's 5'4", 5'5".
Hey man, you haven't seen him hold up a breakfast restaurant before, Rob. I think he's an animal, or he'll kill every single
I have
one of you.
I'm just saying anyways, that's the Incredible Hulk movie. And in this episode, I thought it played a little bit more to his strengths. I think he's got a very dry comedic sense of humor naturally, so I thought it was pretty cool. And it was interesting. It was different, and it also helped explain the shit that we saw in Shang-Chi, right? When you saw him fighting Wong. So, overall, it is what it is, and let's see what we get. Listen, I guess the one thing we have to recognize and acknowledge, this is a vastly different MCU than we got in 2008 and that we got in 2018 and where we are now. It's a vastly different. It is what it is. So it may not be for everybody. Maybe you'll like some of it, maybe you like different things, but they are changing. If you look at all those movies from 2008 to 2015 or 16, the tone was very much similar. They're really broadening their spectrum of what they're allowing themselves to wade into. And I think that we have to give them credit for that. So,
okay. John, before we wrap up, who was your breakout star from this series? Who was the person that you walked away going, man, I need more of this in my life, of this character, without the big stars? Let's not say Charlie.
Yeah, Cox. I was gonna say Tatiana Maslany, like definitely 100%. You want to see more of her, but
let's pick a weird character that you would want to see more of.
The weird character is, I guess, I already shouted out the secretary character, or the
Nikki,
Nikki character. So I'll shout out the other kind of like sidekick guy who's like a sneaker collector. And then and the final episode, he actually gets a little more screen time, and he goes like undercover, and he's like, yo, can I just walk around with this AirPod in my ear? And they're like, no, it's fine. That's what people, and that's what people, that's the norm now. Like, I remember when, I don't know if you guys were early adopters of the Bluetooth headset or whatever, when you would wear it out in public, and you would talk into it, people look at you like you're crazy, right? They're like, oh, is that guy talking to me or whatever? And then they all of a sudden see the thing hanging out of your ear. But yeah, it was pretty funny, and I would like to see him fleshed out a little more, because I felt like he was a little bit all over the place at points. But that last episode where he really got to do a little bit more, I thought was great.
Rob?
Okay, well, I know you said we can't mention any main cast, but I think I want to see more of Titania, because I'm a big fan of, Good place. Jamila, I can't remember her last name. Anyways, because I'm a big fan of The Good Place. And so I thought she was fantastic in that. And I thought when they announced that she was part of this series, I kind of thought that we would get a lot more of her. We got her at the very tail end of episode 1. We got her a bit in episode 2. We got her in the wedding episode, and then kind of a little bit mixed into this one. So I was like, oh, but I think, like, first of all, she's hilarious. And I would love to see more of her in some capacity. I'm not really sure what you would do with that character, that she's a super villain influencer or whatever, but I still have a desire to see more of her. So
yeah, man. I think it's Jamila Jamil.
Yes, I think, yeah.
I'm a stan for Mark Lynn Baker. I love Larry Appleton and Balky Baltakamis. So I want a Morris TV show where him and his friend, it can't be Balky, because I don't think they own it, but two perfect strangers get together and they hang out and talk about superheroes. Maybe Bronson Pinchot kid is also a superhero, and the two of them just hang out and just talk about adventures and talking about their kids doing superhero stuff. So I would pay for a Perfect Reunions, Perfect Strangers style TV show where Morris Walters and, I don't know, who's superhero dad that's based in LA can we get the two of them just get together and talk about man, I don't know. It's got to be, we could figure something out, but I that's what I want. A Bronson Pinchot, Mark Lynn Baker vehicle.
Yeah, because he was hilarious in this episode. He goes, "Don't worry, honey. Lots of people go to jail." Oh my God. And then I like the water hose. Get off my lawn. Like, oh. I don't care about the drought. I have lots of built up water pressure.
It's so great. Man. Yeah.
You don't want to bring Josh back to get punched in the face?
It is what it is. Like
people were pretty pissed at him. I think it was trending on Twitter that they hated.
Well,
that guy.
it's a one in and one out.
So let me ask you though, guys, are you disappointed that there wasn't a big bad? Because a lot of the chat leading up to this was that, oh, it's the leader who we know is going to be part of the Captain America New World Order movie. So a lot of people are thinking, oh, he's taking their blood and this and that. Were you guys kind of, because there's a lot about about her blood and setting her up and this and that, and then to find out it's just a bunch of like what are those guys online, those incels. It was like essentially an incel group, right? That they were the bad, and the doofus at the head of it was the bad guy. Did you feel robbed of not having a bad guy?
I felt that even at the end when they're like the commentary of them is like, not like we're saying that women can't be heroes, but I'm saying like that stuff is verbatim to like cut out and paste off of Twitter. And be like, well,
the Thor one was hilarious.
Yeah, it's like it comes.
The lady Thor ridiculous, and he's not saying it because she's a lady. I would have said it if it was a guy too.
This is all perfect. I'm like, this is the stuff that makes total sense because these people are absolutely bonkers. Yeah. I think that she actually said, it's a struggle that I'm having with the identity. Am I going to be a superhero? Am I going to be a lawyer? Like, not everyone is fighting people all the time. She's having an internal struggle of her own, and she said, "This is what I want to figure out, and this is what I want to do." And I'm fine with it. Like, to it clear, like at least they said verbatim that's what it is in the show.
Yeah.
So they wrote their intentions. It's there. I'm happy. Yep. It's a little different when they didn't say it in the show, and you have to interpret who the villain is. This one, she flat out says, "Hey, Kevin, the villain is just me trying to like internal. Like, okay, great, perfect. You said." You said it's like you said the name of the movie in the movie. Yeah. Bravo. Carry on.
I question where the blood went. I question the overall arc of like taking her blood and doing something with it. But I like the fact that we don't get a leader or some other random drop of some villain that's he's gonna come like later on, or he's gonna
it could be still up. Season 2. Who like again they already said, oh, working season, like who knows? It could be part of the
I'm sure if it continues that's gonna come back. But I like not everything has to be some big extravaganza of an ending. I don't like them to make a bigger deal of it than it is. When
he started hulking out, right? He injects it, and he's like, all that you're, he's like, like that, and then the arm drops because it's so heavy. He's like, like that. And he's like, look at me, and everybody's like,
come at me, bro, come at me. I'm like, oh god. All right, we're wrapping this up. Needless to say, we can all recommend that we had all watched the show. I think I'm going to go back and watch episode 9 for a third time. I just came going back. I watched it twice today, so
wow,
that's where I'm at. John, tell us what's going on. Where can they see you on the internets or find you on the internets and in the desert of the real?
Yeah, so tons of new stuff at the shop. If you don't know, we are an actual physical location that we did just get the recent collection of the new She-Hulk run in trade paperback, which a lot of people have asked me about. And it is very similar feel to the show where each issue is just kind of like a fun adventure and Jen just kind of finding her way in the Marvel universe. So definitely check that out. If you're not following us on the socials, you can check those links in the bottom, Heroes World Online. And if you are listening to the podcast, Spotify or iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating if you still feel inclined. It would really help us out, helps us not get lost in the algorithms, kind of bumps us up in the search pages. So I really do ask you to do that. And other than that, thank you everybody for always sharing, listening, hanging out, commenting. Definitely get at us in the comments. We'd like to hear what you think of the season.
Awesome. Rob, what's going on the Sidekick show?
Oh, Stu, we are oh god, we're going into week 3. It's hard to believe. Of our Halloween spooktacular, where we are going back and checking out kind of quasi scary movies, or are they scary or kind of with a superhero tinge? At any rate, we are going back in time, all the way back, Stu, to May 2022, and Doctor Strange.
This year? It was this year.
Yeah, the Multiverse of Madness, which was supposed to be tied.
You're doing it again? What?
Yeah,
we haven't reviewed it since the initial.
Are you doing a second review of it? That's crazy. That's. I'm. Guys, you're mailing it in. I'm just gonna call it. I've said before, Monster Squad, you gotta find a will and find a way, and you're going back.
It's not streaming.
Jeez, this is handing out a book report of the same book report you did last year, and just changing.
That's the best book report.
Well, at any rate, for those who didn't go to the originally, you can check it on Disney Plus, and we're gonna revisit to find out is it really, does it live up to the title of Marvel's first horror property? Is it good? Because I didn't like it originally when I first saw it, so we're gonna check it out. And Stu doesn't really give two shits, but if you liked it in some capacity, you can join John and I live Monday night, 8:15 p.m. live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Sorry, Stu.
Again?
This is the live show. This is with interaction.
It's not even like it's like a reboot again. It's like not even like the duck hasn't even sold yet. You're going back again. I want none of the slander from YouTube talking about.
Wait, hang on a second. Hang on. We did it with the Batman. We reviewed the Batman from the theater, and then once it came to streaming, we did it on the Psychic show as well.
Again, that's lazy writing. Like that's not better.
Wait
a second. We were
just gonna reach up here and he's gonna like lazy. Pull this up here and push this over here.
That logic doesn't make sense.
Well,
we got away with it once. Let's do it again. Is that what you're telling me?
Hey, tune in soon for our Thor.
You might as well do Venom. Let there be carnage again.
Oh man, not gonna do Venom again.
Okay, if it makes you feel better, next week it's Ghostbusters Afterlife, and we haven't discussed that.
We did.
We did discuss it.
You know what?
Oh
Here's the
God!
thing.
Wow, Rob.
We didn't really like. If I look at the movies,
we did a full review.
If I look at the movies we picked last October, we had like more scary movies. This one, we didn't really pick. Yeah. Hey, guess what?
In 3 weeks' time, you're gonna do Top Gun Maverick. Don't worry.
I will 100% do Top Gun Maverick again when it gets physical.
In 2 weeks' time, it's a special day and night. It's on the 30th on Sunday night, and Stu, we're doing Blade 2
again.
We haven't done Blade 2.
Oh my God!
We did Blade 1, and you guys talked about how good Blade 2 was.
man. All right. Wow. All right. You go back.
He won't watch scary movies.
Monster Squad. It's there. How do we not do this? How are you not doing this? This is.
It's hard to find for people to watch who've never seen it because it's a deep cut. It's like an 80s movie and it's not streaming anywhere. I would love to do Remo Williams. The adventure continues, but it's nowhere to be found streaming wise. What do you do?
There are piracy ways you can get this on the open seas.
Listen, I'm not Captain Jack Sparrow. There's no eye patch.
But that's the same thing about HBO removing the content away from it. Like that's we should have the access to it. But if the acts of Zaslav is trying to save money, like that's stupid. Get the content, share it, make it available, and let people get to know the knowledge and watch just super great content. Like I'm never gonna see Final Space again because HBO, Warner Brothers, like, yeah, we're not gonna give you the rights anymore. It's gone. It's disappearing off every network. Like this is bonkers.
Yeah, it's Final Space. Is that not a cartoon? That's a cartoon, right?
That's a cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah. It might get picked up by somebody.
No. The thing is, if they give it to someone else, they have to pay the money to the people that produced it. So if they just delete it off the internet and hold it for themselves and not show it anywhere, then they don't have to pay the content producers, the writers, any of the aftermarket monies. Because every time you play something, money goes to someone, right? It's how the DGA, the Writers Guild, the Directors Guild, like how the unions operate. But if your stuff doesn't exist anywhere, then you'll get paid for anything.
Yeah,
that's how they're saving money.
Is this a power move for them to try and get them to buy it back from them, or they just
no? This is just.
Is it a petty move?
$100 million. Like this is that's why they shelved Batgirl. That's why they basically stripped down the Cartoon Network. That's basically how they're getting rid of all. In
fact, they're not even the Batman cartoon, the new one that's coming out by Paul Dini and all that. They're like Warner Bros. Like we don't want anything, but go with God, and you can shop it somewhere else. And they're actually this will end up on Apple TV or on Netflix. A Batman cartoon.
Not on Warner Brothers, yeah.
God, wouldn't it be great if it was on Disney Plus, though?
No, Zaslav's already said we're open to shopping all our properties, and not to be in WB. So they were like, you can have
everything.
everything. Disney could probably buy half the stuff and be like, we'll just lease it and then we'll put it on our content. Like, you don't want to use a character, we'll just buy it off you for an X amount of time, and that's
why with The Rock talking about, you know, maybe doing a movie with DC versus Marvel, maybe it's a much more realistic and a closer to the goal line than
there's no one overseeing any of DC, so you could tell me anything right now and I believe it. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. It's like, yeah, any idea that was put into the system 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you know what? It's already still there. Let's just make it. That's why you get Constantine 2 with Keanu Reeves.
That's John.
A movie nobody wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brutal. Anyway,
John wanted two things. He said Constantine 2 or Condiment King series. He got one of his wishes.
Condiment King gets his Paste Pot Pete. Two-minute
all right.
show.
My rant is over. Yeah.
End rant. Thank you, everybody.
Join them as they watch a movie that we've already reviewed. Go back and watch the old episode or watch the new one. Whatever you want to do. I don't care. Thanks, guys. Good one.
You really took the win.